been waiting for eternity. I'll be
Hey, what's up, you guys? Kellen Killing for Company. I know it's been a while, but I'm finally back. And apologize for the delay, but what do I have here for you? So today I'm kind of going to be getting into, hopefully that's coming through nice and loud. Bring up a little bit more. If you can't tell, a little bit of a genre discovery or adventure here. I don't know, right now in my listening habits, I've been more, I guess, intrigued to get into some other genres that I potentially in the past didn't spend a lot of time with, or I don't know, just kind of been burnt out a little bit on the, things that make up most of my listening habits, which are like death metal, thrash, black metal. And this year, I kind of feel I've at a tipping point with European power metal. Last year I talked at length about how much I enjoyed the Sacred Outcry record. And once again, I apologize if my voice is, I've got a little bit of a cold here. But how much I loved last year's Sacred Outcry record, and we had talked about, for anyone who may have missed it, on the album club we'd covered Lost Horizon, This Is Awakening the World, their debut release, and as a favor in a package, Marty sent over Keepers 1, and I don't know, because I've been more interested in kind of venturing into unknown territory, I thought this would be a good year to at least get started on a genre that I've been kind of dancing around for a little bit. So what I did is I kind of spent some time thinking about okay, there's some core records that I want to pick up, and just the beginning sort of set of, all right, here's a baseline for you. And then kind of venturing out into lesser known bands, lesser known records that potentially would come recommended. And I didn't really know how to go about that. So I went to a review website that covers all sorts of stuff, but they do a good humored end of year power metal list over at Lastrites, and I'll link to their website. But they'd compiled a list of power metal records that top 100, one of those arbitrary yet kind of fun lists that people will put together. And I think I've got it here, and I can just I'll even on the video put up a screenshot that I took that kind of highlights the parameters of what they had in mind. And here, let's see if I can find it. I'll read off a piece of it for you. And once again, I'll show this to you so you can read along with me. But here's how the game works. We've already covered the top 50 US power metal records of all time. Links provided. And I think that's important, right? I've talked at length about my love and affection towards US power metal in various times, efforts. That's a genre for me that is in my, for my preferences, I spend a lot of time there. But it's important if we're just going to make a top list of power metal records to differentiate the two, because and here it carries on. So the purpose of this supplementalist is to shine a light on what's become the more widely accepted interpretation of power metal following the European coup that took place in and around the spring of 1987. So, once again, that's when Keepers 1 came out. I think that's mostly agreed upon as the sort of standard, the threshold where we move from kind of a ambiguous and sort of difficult time period in heavy metal's history that's, while it creates all sorts of classic records, Keepers 1 comes out and it sort of shifts the direction as to what the genre is going to become. And as the American scene starts to sort of come down the other side of the mountain, on the ascension is this sort of European scene. So anyway, they've compiled this 100 record list, and I thought it'd be fun for me to kind of scroll through it and pick through some, and from there just kind of decide which ones I liked, which ones I didn't. I kind of agree with a lot of their, in the past, the picks that they've made, or at least the opinions on some of the records. More recently, they loved Towers of Gold last year. So if that is, if there's some point of agreement, at least I can go along with their recommendations going forward. So I thought, right? And I don't know, it was kind of a fun thought experiment because I haven't really dove into a genre like this, or a genre, I would say, in a long time, where I feel pretty much, I don't want to say completely oblivious, or I don't lack any knowledge surrounding it, but it's not a place where I have an inherent expertise, and I don't know, I thought that would be a cool place to begin. Is all right, here someone recommending some records for you. You don't really have a lot of knowledge or experience. Let's dive into it and see what you think. So, anyway. Already noticed, the first record I'm going to be talking about, there's going to be 3 today that we'll cover, is Gamma Ray's Land of the Free. So I guess how I'm structuring this, it'll be one classic record and then a couple, 2 or 3 that are lesser known. But yeah, Gamma Ray Land of the Free was one that came recommended to me. I guess the story for this album is, it's Kai Hansen sort of takes over after Ralph Scheepers. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but he leaves the band. So Kai Hansen takes over on the vocal duties, and stylistically it's a shift. For some reason on Metal Archives, their earlier records don't get too much praise, but Land of Free seems to be this, some people have called it Keepers 3, or Return to Walls of Jericho, the first Halloween record, but it came highly recommended. It was on the Lastrites list as a classic top 100 European power metal. Turn it up a little bit more for you. There we go. But to my ears, it sounds very much like classic European power metal, a little bit more on the speed metal influence. Lots of double bass, but I think it's interesting that so many people have called it a return to form, or a missing record. Almost to say this is a short-lived sort of glorious time period in the genre's history before it becomes, I guess, more symphonic or more operatic, or whatever. The cheese train arrives and it goes completely off the rails in terms of how campy and costume oriented the genre ended up developing into. But I really dig this record. The opening track, Rebellion in Dreamland, is almost 9 minutes long, and that thing it's absolutely killer. We're, I think, on the second track, Man on a Mission, right here. You can tell this thing is just kind of raging along. And while Kai's got those like cleaner, like soaring vocals on top of it, the guitar work for the most part is aggressive enough to kind of I mean, this stuff, as I say that, like, perfect timing, right? I get, like, why fans who were into thrash and speed metal potentially in this early to, like, mid-'80s were attracted to the Halloween sound, and potentially why Land of the Free, you know, captured their imagination again. Yeah, I can absolutely rock with this. There's like a couple of tracks here for me that... There we go. Back to form. Gods of Deliverance and Salvation's Calling, they're like even, you know, speedier, more aggressive than this. Anyway, those tracks, I think 6 and 8, are aggressive enough for me to, in my mind, like almost sound like artillery more than they do Exciter or Agent Steel. Like, if it's proximity to speed metal that you know, lands these records a certain degree of credibility, like they're heavy enough in their execution that I think they're almost leaning closer to thrash and how those songs end up unfolding than they do like early speed metal. So those were awesome. And then, you know, some of my other like standout moments on the record are, you know, as much as I do love Rebellion in Dreamland, the opener, I'd also want to point out one of the longer songs here, Abyss of the Void. That song's got like another kind of anthemic, mid-pace, sort of like galloping build to it, where you can see like they're more interested in not just playing songs quickly, but how to construct something so they develop a sense of scale and grandeur. I really like that track. The following track, though, Time to Break Free.
It's a better life to lead. We're all undone, emotionless. It's not the way for me. Now I know there's a better way. Let my heart ride out for the priority. Now it's time to...
Michael Kiska actually joined for that track, and I didn't like that one at all. That one's a little bit too AOR for me, which is something that I guess Halloween always kind of has in their back pocket. Once again, I'm not too familiar with that catalog, like some people are. But yeah, I didn't really like that closer. But there are enough sort of killer tracks here. It's speedy, aggressive enough. You know, like another. There'll be some themes here on the early sort of German albums that I've chosen that are highlighted, where I think that is a key element to keep track of, just sort of like the speed metal side of things that early power metal had. And if it was forever lost in like the exchange from Keepers 2 into the early 90s, like there's enough of it on this record to sort of grab your attention, and I completely understand why it was considered like such a killer record. So that'll be gets my seal of approval. I would absolutely hunt this down on a vinyl release. I've got a Noise Records copy here, so I knew it would be a good one, and I wanted to grab a decent copy. So let's go to our second choice.
What's
Okay, so for the next one I have Symphony X. This is a 5, and I think the longer title is like, hold on, let me pull it up here. The New Mythology Suite. Something I kind of forgot to mention. In the lastrites list, they sort of qualify that like power prog should be included, but they do so in a way that kind of is like also coincides with the arrival and ascension of European power metal. I guess what I mean to say there is, like, it's not pulling from the Queensryche, Crimson Glory, Fate's Warning side of American power prog. Like, it's very much interested in, you know, to me, it kind of progressive power metal that is distinctly, yes, American, but also is coming on the heels of bands that were really inspired by American thrash. Like, this to me sounds more Dream Theater than it does, you know, a lot of the early speed metal acts that inspired, you know, potentially like the German sound, right? This is decidedly American in a way that feels more connected to American thrash, which is something that I also would associate with Dream Theater. Like, once again, like, I'm completely out, you know, not speaking from a level of expertise, but just sort of my immediate initial reaction with the genre. So, that being said, I mean, the prog part of this is completely apparent. So I guess the essential members here are Michael, I guess, is it Romeo? I'll just go with that. I mean, the guitar work is pretty bonkers. Like, in a good way, just really technical thrash. Another, I would say, key part of the sound for me immediately that was distinguishing itself from the European scene is the vocals.
My shadow burning, my shadow burning across the light. Tonight, darkness will shadow the light. Symmetry divine, there's no force greater. Divine all the fathers of time. Tonight.
So Russell Allen is the vocalist here, and he, to me, seems like he could have been playing with a band that was much more rooted in American rock. Like, there's enough of a blues sensibility to his vocal character that I think is totally different from the kind of like elevated operatic side of European power metal. I don't know if it's just the register that he's singing in. But there's something about like the inflection to his voice that sounds like he was way more rooted in the blues. So, it to me, like, all those things combined, it's going to be an interesting balance going forward, because in some ways I was less prepared to listen to something like this than I was Gamma Ray. I'm not a big Dream Theater fan, and I never considered them to be a power metal band. So to see Symphony X, to be unfamiliar with them, to see this record for the most part praised, like, that is totally a blues vocal style. Anyway, on top of that, like, this is an exhaustive. So most of I guess this is their first one released on Metal Blade, and I very much consider this band, just in terms of my initial impression, to be a musician's band first. it was difficult for me to sit down and consume an entire hour of this record. It's not to say that they don't have standout moments or like anything that's memorable. Like, it's not just sort of an instrumental flex without song structure or hooks or anything like that.
Way to fly on wings of divinity and words of wisdom fade away. The law of one will fade and die. The rising moon will crush the sky. So falls the night, the darkest hour.
But there's a level of complexity that is just operating almost non-stop during the course of this album that it's difficult to really internalize it. So upon listening to this, you know, in my car, driving around with it, listening it a handful of times before I sat down to record this video, I've memorized elements of it, but I haven't really wrapped my brain around the full album. I think it's close to 62 minutes long. So it's a lot to sort of consume in a single sitting. There's some interesting, like, you know, scale work going on. One of my favorite tracks is Egypt, and that's almost 7 minutes long. It's got not just the chorus that really sticks to me, but I think you can tell they're also so well versed as musicians. They're playing with, you know, different kind of music theory scale elements to where you can hear like the palette that they have to pull from is incredibly diverse.
If we are one, kingdom of gold, I lay at your feet. Ruler of time and space, you will be. Rivers of truth forever will run. If we are one.
So, in that sense, like, I don't know if you want to call it like the musical color that they operate with, but it reminds me of a prog record where they can take you into so many different places just because of how the fluency that they have on their instruments. Out of the records I'm showing today, this is probably like one of the harder listens, and I think I'm gonna keep, you know, touch with this genre or the side of this sort of album experiment ordeal that I've got going on, just because it's probably, I think I have greater sort of ceiling in terms of, you know, I feel comparative to spending time with like Lost Horizon and Sacred Outcry, this feels more alien to me. So I'm gonna keep listening to it, but I've got a couple other records that are in this vein of like the power prog sort of stuff, that will be keep in touch with on the course of these videos. So we'll move on from Symphony X here, and I'll go to the last record I got. The last album I have here from you is, I've kept on wanting to call this band Domine, but I think they're Italian. I think this is pronounced Domine. And the album is Stormbringer Ruler, The Legend of the Power Supreme. Like I said, Italian band. A very I don't want to say like emaciated or anemic looking Elric there. So I know Italian power metal is sort of synonymous with the more symphonic side of things, I believe, but I could be wrong about that. But this band like is 100%. So out of the group that or the couple records that I've chosen, this was the real discovery. This band, if you wouldn't already infer by having a Michael Moorcock figure on the album cover, like, is far more interested in like an epic or more or traditional heavy metal side of power metal, which, you know, as much as I loved Sacred Outcry, like 100% what I'm interested in. So this was a real success for me. It's out on, they're the band actually who's responsible for Dragonheart Records, I believe. And Dragonheart is one that I know because they put out a lot of the Doomsword releases. At least I think the second record or the middle portion of that band's catalog, which is another Italian epic doom band. So that's 100% my thing. Doomsword's awesome. So when I found out they had a connection, and you know, the first track here that we're listening to right now, the Hurricane Master, is probably the closest we get on this album to German power metal. But the themes of the record are very much epic heavy metal. The overwhelming majority of the songs here, I think, eclipse at least the 5-minute mark. I think even move into like 6 minutes. So this record came out in 2001. The majority of these songs, I think almost all of them except for this Hurricane Master, are over 6 minute long, so they play almost like in a much more epic style. I'm 100% on board with this. Like, I love this intersection of pulling a little bit back away from the, you know, campy, frivolous, whimsical power metal. Like, as much as that sort of like fun, it just almost feels to me like at some level completely uninterested in having like the lifespan or shelf life for heavy metal fans. Right? Or I feel something like the iconic era of the genre still wanted to have some degree of, shared, like, common ground musically with fans that came up on speed metal and thrash, whatever. And if this pulls you closer to like fans of Warlord or Manowar, which I think for a band like Sacred Outcry they're interested in, Domine is like 100% what you're looking for. But these are power metal songs that have like a slow burn to them, and I'm all on board, man. Domine rules. I will be picking up like immediately. There's like 3 or 4 other. There's a handful of other releases. Like, I'll want to pick up their debut release, Champion Eternal. It looks like their Dragon Lord, the second release, isn't on. I'm here in Metal Archives. It hasn't gone over so well, but. Emperor of the Black Runes is also rated high, so I'll be, tuning into more of this band's catalog, and I love this side of power metal. So, right, he doesn't quite have like a, what do you want to call it, a warble or anything like that, but so it's much more of a traditional power metal kind of vocal style, but nevertheless, like, I like the sort of mid-paced, heavier, narrative storytelling kind of power metal here that you get, that shares a lot of the same tropes and themes that you get in epic heavy metal. So, Domine, Storebringer Ruler, The Legend of the Power Supreme. It's quite a mouthful there. But cool. Well, wrapping it up, just trying to make something quick and easy for you guys to watch and tune into. There's probably some, more in-depth projects I will get into here on my channel this year. I've been trying to get Corinne back in front of the camera and put together another Married with Metal episode for you. But until then, I'll be, please, in the comments, if you disagree with anything I had to say, you can, set me on fire in the comments. If you have suggestions, I'm happy to hear them. I'm taking all comers, so please let me know. Anything else you want to add, or if you think I missed a key detail for any of these records that you feel would potentially improve my listening or understanding with any of these bands that I mentioned, go ahead, let me know. I'm actually really interested to potentially get people involved in the comments here, since I'm coming into this one less knowledgeable than I am usually in my videos. So kind of trying something a little bit new and willing to kind of put myself out there. Let me know what you think. Until then, you can catch me. I've got some reviews coming for you over on there should be a new Critical Defiance release that Marty, I think, is editing right now. I've got, I think, a couple other, I might cover the Diabolic Oath album and maybe Tarot. I don't know. Then on the Album Club every Wednesday night, if I'm not working or traveling or something like that, you can catch me with Marty, TJ, Jim on the Album Club Wednesday night on the Heavy Metallurgy channel at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the US. Until then, I'll see you guys later.